Hi and welcome to this video workshop on online delivery, best practices from distributed learning. In this session, we're going to talk about the course concept, the big idea for how the course is going to work, what it's going to be like. As instructors, we do this all the time whenever we prepare to teach a class in person. We think about what we're going to do in the class, whether we're going to have a lot of discussions or hands-on activities or group work. We think about the resources like books and articles that we want to use. We think about the kinds of tests or other assignments or assessments we're going to have. We do the same thing online. Keep in mind that not all online courses are the same. Instructional strategies, media and resources, the kinds of activities and interactions all depend on the needs of the students, the type of subject matter, and your style as an instructor, just like in the classroom. And it's interesting, but we found in continuing education that an instructor's style comes through online, just like in the classroom. So whatever you do that works for you in the classroom, think about how you do that online. Now, a word before we start. Our courses in continuing education are mostly asynchronous, which means that the students don't have to be online at the same time. It's not a live scheduled session using Skype or the video classroom or anything like that. And that's because our students are part-time, and so they have different work schedules. Some of them may work shift work and other commitments, so it's just not practical. For regular classes with full-time students, you might include some synchronous or live sessions in your course if that fits with your course concept. But in this session, we're only going to touch on synchronous learning since it isn't used very often in continuing education. In continuing education, one of the first things we do when we're planning an online course is an informal learning needs analysis, which just means we think about what things we need to know in order to prepare the course. And as instructors, we all do this with in-person courses, but we just might not do it intentionally and take the time to write it down. Okay, so for example, here's the completed analysis that we did for these sessions. It took about 20 minutes. The original thought was that these would be live workshops using Skype or Zoom. So I started the analysis by asking, who are my students? And the answer is that they're NBCC instructors, they're professional educators, okay? You know your subject, you know your students, you know how to teach. So the things that I originally had in my mind and I thought about saying in these sessions, there's a lot of that I don't need to do. And so I know this, but still it wasn't until I wrote it down that it really sank in. Now I also looked at the situation, and right now you're under the gun and you need to get these materials ready to start very soon. And based on this analysis, the plan changed. We decided that live sessions were not the best method, and what instructors really needed was something short that they can look at when they want, that gives examples and practical tools that they can apply right now if they're useful. So this is an informal analysis. You're just going to take the time to crystallize in your own mind what you already know about your students. And if it's a course you haven't taught before, then you might want to do a little research by talking to other instructors who have taught it and asking, what are these students like? How do they learn? What challenges do they typically face? What are the best ways to overcome those challenges, and so on. So for example, say this is an area in which most of the students typically don't learn best by reading. So then you're not going to give extensive reading passages in the online environment for them to learn from. You're going to use videos, or if you do have a lot of reading passages, you're going to use the read speaker so that they can hear it read to them. Maybe these are hands-on learners, in which case you're going to design different kinds of hands-on activities, and you have to think about that. So the activities themselves don't have to be in the learning environment. So for example, one of our instructors developed some at-home labs for Newtonian physics. and the students do the labs at home in their kitchen. And then they report on them in Brightspace using the assignment tool. You could even have them take pictures. Also think about the needs of the profession. So for example, if you're studying to be an EA, that's a collaborative profession where you work as part of a team. So maybe there need to be collaborative activities, or maybe the students need to write certification exams, so they need practice with multiple choice test items. Now in Brightspace, you could have a lot of multiple choice quizzes and practice. In fact, you could give much more than in the classroom, and it's all going to mark itself. Of course, your needs are also a consideration in your time. So what do you have time to develop? Now, another question you might ask yourself about is the student's self-directed learning skills. And although at the college level we expect students to be self-directed, most of them are young and they're coming from a school system in which they haven't learned those skills. And it may be even harder for them now that they're learning at home. So this is actually a big part of why in continuing education we structure our courses in Brightspace the way we do, and why we have a course schedule with due dates and so on. We want to equip or train our students to become self-directed. So if your students typically have challenges with self-direction, what are some of the ways that you can help them develop those self-directed skills they need to succeed in your course? So, for example, maybe you'll do something like use the Intelligent Agents tool in Brightspace to automatically send out email messages to students when their assignments are overdue. Once we've finished gathering information in our informal learning needs analysis, we come up with a course concept. Basically, that's a statement or a summary of how the course is going to work. It's based on the curriculum profile, especially the verbs and the course competencies, which say what the students are supposed to be able to do, the needs analysis, and our experience as instructors. So what is the primary delivery method going to be? If the course is fully online, is it going to be synchronous or asynchronous or a blend? What media are we going to use to present the content in the course? So maybe live sessions, but are there also going to be video recordings? Are we going to have PowerPoints? Are we going to have PDF downloads? How are we going to give the information? And then the concept, the big picture of how the course is going to work. So for example, in preparing for these videos, I came up with the idea finally that they were going to be asynchronous web-based delivery, kept the possibility open of a real-time live Q&A session. For media, I chose YouTube videos and document downloads, kept the idea open again of Skype for potential live Q&A, and then the concept for how it's all going to work. So now I have a plan. So let's look at some examples of continuing education courses so we can look at different course concepts. So this is a math course, and in this course, you can see it's laid out the same way our courses always are. Here are the modules. If we go into the first module, you'll see that this instructor has chosen to begin every module with an introductory video, which sort of gives it a personal feeling and gives the students a sense of being directly taught. Then we have in this module, and the lessons and practice are in a folder. So this course is basically like an online workbook. And if you've ever seen a math workbook, you know that they present a topic and some examples, and then there are practice exercises. Topic and examples, practice exercises. So that's what she's done in this course. She's presenting rounding numbers, giving an explanation, showing some examples, and then there are practice questions. Now the practice questions actually use the Brightspace quiz tool, and the students can do these practice exercises more than once. In fact, if they are having any trouble, we want them to do them more than once so that they can develop their skills. However, the practice questions are drawn from a test bank, and they're presented in random order, and the answers are presented in a random order as well. So you're not getting the same test twice. So you're going to actually have to learn it. Now, one of the things that you have to watch for with this style of course is that sometimes, especially the students who are struggling, they'll skip the lesson and they just do the practice. And of course they fail. And then they still don't go back and look at the lesson. They just try the practice exercises again. So if you find that you are having some students who are doing the practice exercises multiple times and aren't improving, then you need to touch base with those students and talk with them about their study strategies and see if there are issues that you need to remediate having to do with basic math. All right, so after the lessons and practice, she has a review and an assignment. And the review is a printable version of the module. So all of the topics that were in there are in a print version. So for the people who don't learn well online or who want to keep it for future study or to print it out, it's right here they can do that. Then there's an assignment which they have to print out, complete by hand, and then scan and submit in the Dropbox. Finally, there's speedy feedback. Now this is an interesting tool that we use sometimes. It's basically a really short, like 3-question quiz, and you can assign participation marks for it just to motivate them to do it, like a total of 2% or 1% for the whole course. But it's short questions like, were there any topics you didn't understand? Is there anything you'd like more information about or whatever? And the purpose is to find out how the students feel that they're doing in the course, so then you can follow up with them. So then she has some links to explore your knowledge and learn more. The students don't have to do those, but they are there for them. So if we look at the overall course structure, we can see that she has a couple of modules, and then she has a test, and a couple of modules and a test. I think there are 6 tests altogether in the course, along with the practice exercises and the assignments. That's a lot of practice. Here's another example. This is actually a course that an instructor is working on right now. This is a second-year early childhood education course. So through continuing education, all of our students will be previous post-secondary graduates with a certificate of early childhood education, and the vast majority of them will be working in the field, either in daycares or for the Department of Education or a similar capacity. So we can assume some level of skill. So we decided in this case to take more of a research and application approach. And there is more reading in this course than in some others. But still, time was a real constraint here. So one of the things we have here is a library where we have some core documents that might be used in various places in the course. And then, as I say, time was a real problem. We didn't have very long to put this together. So we have to think about it. And in this module, here what we have is one goal or task that's very closely related to a curriculum competency, and then that's going to be reflected in the discussions and assignment for that module. And then, as you can see here, where the content is, we've called it resources. And so for this course, coming up with the task and then the assessments was the key thing. And then basically this is a bucket and we're filling it with the resources that are going to help the students achieve the goal of this competency. And that was because of the time constraints. Now, one of the things that's in here is textbook readings. And so this is the one page in this module where we've got the textbook assignment. And something we've got here to help students in taking notes, because some of them aren't very good at note taking, is actually a document that they can download that will guide them in taking notes. So it doesn't give them the notes, but it tells them, okay, so find definitions for 3 types of something or other, and so on. Now, another thing that we've got in each module is a quiz. And the quiz is an open book quiz, and it's based on the textbook reading. because we know that some of the students will tend to want to skip the textbook readings and just go do the assignments. So this quiz is directly related to the textbook readings. They have to do the textbook readings to find them. And the quiz is not timed. They can leave it open all day if they want to while they go look up the answers, but that means they have to look in the book. Here's one last example, and we're looking at this one because this instructor's integrated the video classroom. Now this is a continuing ed course, which means it's asynchronous, but there is a synchronous component. So this instructor's included a wide variety of things in each of her modules. It still follows our basic structure, but she's got some links, she's got some videos, she's got some quizzes, probably based on articles that are also in here. She also, in most of the modules, has a discussion. And online asynchronous discussion is really a very powerful tool, and it has some real advantages over in-class discussion. And one of the biggest advantages is that everybody has to talk, and you can evaluate everybody's contribution. One of the challenges, however, so you have to make sure you use it judiciously, is that you have to mark it. So you have to mark and give feedback on every student's contribution. So if you feel that you have a course that requires more discussion than you can reasonably mark, then you might need to look at other strategies. So for example, I have sometimes given group projects so that the students have to discuss, but I only have to mark one final product for each group. Now, the use of the video classroom in this course was kind of interesting. You have to incentivize people to do things sometimes, right? So in this course, she has one project that's built throughout the whole course, and students submit and are marked a number of times throughout the course, and then they submit the whole thing again at the end for another other mark. So before each stage, they have a live session, and they do some components of each stage of that assignment live. Now, for the students who don't log in live, because as I say, our students in continuing education have various work schedules and so on, and some of them can't, they have to do extra pieces of the assignment each time when they submit it. And the students who attended the live sessions get credit for that already because they did it in class. So that incentivizes the students to attend if they can, but it still makes possible successful completion by the other students who, for whatever reason, couldn't attend. We're almost done. There's just one last thing I'd like to talk about. This is Kahn's framework. It's out of date. It's actually about 20 years old, and it was a model for institutions to think about the different dimensions of support that they should give to e-learners. However, I bring it up because it's also important for us as instructors to think about the different dimensions of support that we need to offer our students. Now, so far we've been talking about the pedagogical dimension, how it is that we're going to teach our students. But there are other dimensions of support that we have to have as well. So for example, resource support. How are you going to be available to your students? Are you going to have virtual office hours? What are the methods by which they're going to contact you? How often are you going to monitor their progress? The ethical dimension. Is the information and are the resources that you have prepared, are they equally available to all students? What about students who may face various challenges? Are your resources accessible? What about students who require accommodations? How are you going to deal with that? Evaluation. Not just how are you going to evaluate the students, although that's important, and ensuring the integrity of your course, but how are you going to evaluate the course and what was successful and what wasn't? These are also elements of your course concept.